I can't stop thinking about Oracle. The memory of that day just corrupted my every thought. On good days, I might be able to stop thinking long enough to eat or change my clothes before the anxiety cripples me back into a submission. Today is not a good day. A lot of days are not good days. So, if these are the thoughts I'm stuck with, then they're the ones I'll write. I had just moved away to start college. My mind was filled with the what ifs. What if I get lost on campus? What if I don't like my classes? What if I can't make friends? But after a couple of weeks, my nerves subsided as I got settled into my new routine. It was a sleepy little college town surrounded by the sea of yellow cornfields and family farms. The people were nice enough, and on the surface I had nothing to really complain about. Until a couple of weeks in when I noticed the whispering. Initially, I wrote it off. I assumed it was just people whispering about me being new to the area, and that as the new semester would keep on coming, I'd become more of just the new girl. But it didn't stop. Even well into the first semester, people who I thought of as friends or at least classmates still whispered to each other whenever I was around. I know what they kept whispering now. From the day I arrived, the question on everybody's lips was, has she met Oracle? I first learned of her from a note that was snuck into my backpack. It was a yellow index card that said, "The Oracle would like to see your future." It listed a new Drexel address, a time and date, and then said, "Bring an offering." I thought it was some weird small-town joke. After I had found the note, the whispers turned their questions to me. I couldn't walk into a room without at least one person seeing me, briskly walking over and then whispering into my ear excitedly, "Have you gone yet?" Or, "Have you met her?" They were so eager to talk about her. One told me that he got a winning lottery number from her. Another left his day job to start a company of his own because she saw in his future. Another met her now husband because of Oracle. All success stories, all happy endings. I was skeptical. It was all so weird. I told myself that I wouldn't go, but whether it came from curiosity or boredom, one Friday night, I found myself talking endlessly, in lefts and rights through the back roads lined with the cornfields. In my passenger seat, I had a now worn-out index card with the address and a brand new family-sized package of Oreos. No one would tell me what kind of offering an Oracle would want, but who doesn't like Oreos? I'm not sure what I expect, but it wasn't what I found. Pulling up to the address, I took a long dirt path surrounded by trees that gave way to a large clearing where two double-wide trailers sat, private and hidden. The yard was a mess of old and new. An old plastic slide and playhouse were faded from years of elements. Yet next to them was a brand new playground structure made of beautiful dark wood. The green plastic slide looked shiny and inviting, and the swing was pristine with their chains clanging softly in the breeze. I turned my attention to the house. Between them was an awning in which two cars sat parked, a beat-up Jeep Wrangler and a sporty-looking BMW. Before I noticed her, she was in front of me, holding out a hand to shake. She was a young girl. We must have been around the same age. She wore a dirty work shirt and stained overalls. Brown hair lied braided behind her back. Brown eyes looked up at me expectantly, waiting for me to shake her hand. I was about to explain myself and tell her that I was looking for Oracle, but she cut me off before I could even open my mouth. "Hi, Elise. I'm Alex, but you've probably heard of me as the Oracle. Nice to finally meet you." Wordlessly, I shook her hand. "Come inside. You can sit on the couch while I freshen up. We'll be in the left house," she said, and without any further discussion, she turned and began walking away. I followed her, but before I could even go to the door, she turned and said, "Don't forget the Oreos. Double stuffed is my favorite." When I walked in, I was greeted by a small, cozy home. To the left was the kitchen, and to the right was a small dining room table, old and worn, with beat-up chairs to match. Walking past the table, I found the living room furnished with luxury couches that were almost too big to fit in the space. I sat and was faced with a large television that was nearly the size of the wall it hung on. I heard the shower running. It acted as brown noise as my mind began to wander. I thought about how strange it all was. Some girl living all the way out here can see the future. I didn't believe her, not at first. Even though she knew my name, I explained that away. I assumed one of the whispers had told her. I hadn't told anyone about Oreos, but eventually I figured out that she had seen them in the passenger seat of my car. A loud tearing noise pulled me from my thoughts. I realized she was in the kitchen now, opening up the package of cookies. The shower was off. I didn't know how long it had been cut off, but it was off. She was dressed in a different outfit, of a t-shirt and overalls, cleaner, but still stained with the dirt and car grease. Her hair was dry. "So," I began, but I wasn't sure what to say. I remember being thankful that she cut me off again. "Hey, sorry to leave you sitting there. I knew you would be here sometime, but I didn't know when." "How did you know I was going to come here at all?" "I saw it," she said simply. The words hung in the air for a beat, then another. "You have questions, I'm sure." "They always do. Would you sit with me? I can explain what I know," she said, motioning to the beat-up dining room table. I remember I was unsure about whether I should sit down. I had thought about just leaving, that this was just some type of scam. But then I blinked, and I sat facing her. A large candle sat between us, with a lid on top. She was speaking about something and must have been deeply in thought. Her eyes didn't meet mine as she continued on. "Like I said, I don't get to control what I see or how far. Without anyone, I only get dreams. Fragments of thousands of futures that I can rarely make sense of. But when I have someone else here, I can see into the future through them. That's why I love new guests. Now, the visions are a sure thing. Fate or destiny or whatever you want to call it. It's fixed. It's just yet to be lived." She paused for a moment, then made eye contact with me again. "Sorry for rambling. Does that answer your question?" I'm not sure," was all I could say. "You might be feeling a little disoriented, but that's normal. It's this property. The land has something about it. Feels like you're in a fog sometimes. Can I get you some water or anything?" I remember this moment. It fills me with regret, anger, resentment. I didn't know when she started talking or how much I had missed, but I was sure that something was wrong. I didn't remember sitting down. I didn't remember asking her a question. I felt high. I felt so far from anything real, sitting at this shitty table, and I meant to tell her. I meant to say that I felt ill, that I had cold feet, that I needed to leave. I opened my mouth. The words started. "Hi." And then the blinds were closed. The room was dark. The candle flickered as our only light. We held hands above the table together like a seance. She was telling me to look deeply into her eyes, and only into her eyes. We both leaned forward. She stared into mine, and I stared into hers. The candlelight flickered. She bore into me with intensity. Her brown eyes looked darker in the candlelight. I was waiting. My lungs burned as I realized I had been holding my breath. I exhaled and waited. Another moment passed. Then, the room began to glow. It was soft at first, an orange light that draped gently over the room. I looked around for the source. To my surprise, the candlelight was merely a whisper, and the blinds were still drawn. "Look at me. I can't see unless you look into my eyes," the oracle repeated. I looked back at her, and her eyes emanated a faint orange light. "Look deeper," she instructed. I obeyed. Her irises had this change from a common brown to something more. The orange became brighter, warmer. I heard birds singing. I felt the wind blowing. Everything was calm, serene. Her eyes were an early summer morning. They turned a shade of green, and I heard the leaves rustling into the breeze. It was all brighter now, hotter. She stared at me with the suns in her eyes. I strained to keep my eyes open, but I felt compelled to look harder. I saw a clear blue sky of a summer's day, and then that blue gave way into purples and pinks as I watched the sunset. The night came and her eyes twinkled with starlight. We were bathed in the light of harvest moon. I watched the stars turn until the room began to glow orange again. Days passed in those eyes, then weeks, and then months. I stared into those kaleidoscope eyes, and I watched the seasons pass. The colors danced around the room, gaining speed. I watched the storms gather, dark foreboding grays that swirled with intensity and power. Lightning flashed in our sockets, and I smelled the rain. I wasn't armored when she reached the autumn months. The room shore brilliant shades of brown, yellow, and red, and we were buried in the falling leaves. I was lost in the flashing lights of a life I've yet to live. Until suddenly, it stopped. I found myself at a beat-up dining room table again. I was holding the hands of a stranger with a faint candle lit between us. We were both standing out of our chairs and leaning forward to see each other better. She looked into my eyes, and I looked into hers. Her eyes were plain and brown and gripped with fear. "Well, what did you see?" I ventured to ask. My question seemed to pull her into the moment with me. She threw my hands down, as if she was surprised to still be holding them, and began to back away from me, into the wall. The oracle held her hands to her eyes, covering her face. From behind her hands, I heard a pleading whisper. "No, no, 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 no." "What did you see?" was all I could ask. She slammed her hands on the table and began to scream. "No! No! 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 No!" There were tears in her eyes. Without warning, she had exploded in hysterics. I was frozen, stunned, too stunned to even stop her, as she took her first two fingers on each hand and began to gouge her eyes out, all while still screaming, "No! No! No!" She fell to the ground, screaming in defiance. What was left of her eyes hung out of her sockets, and the blood stained her face and her clothes and especially her hands. She was sobbing. I began to approach her. I wanted to help. I wanted to take her to the hospital. And selfishly, somewhere deep down, I needed to know what she saw. But I never got the chance. A harsh yellow light burst from her now empty eye sockets. It hummed with intensity and poured over me like a nuclear blast. The Oracle sprung to her feet and screamed out in horror. "Oh God! I can still see it!" Without another word, she grabbed the table firmly with both hands and bashed her head against it. Everything around me drowned in the light. Explosions of yellow rattled me with each impact. She screamed and slammed her head again. My skin burned. Slam. My teeth ached with every sickening hit. Slam. Something cracked loudly. My eyes failed me. I saw only yellow. All-encompassing yellow. She screamed out again, a cry of terror. And with the final slam, the light was gone as quickly as it came. The Oracle lying dead, an eyeless, massive fear and gore. In every sunrise, in every storm, in every clear sky, I see her ever-changing eyes watching me. At night, when everything is still, I hear my heartbeat pounding away like a skull cracking against wood. At night, when everything is still, I hear my heartbeat pounding away like a skull cracking against wood. And when sleep does finally take me, I see the yellow, whispering to me about impossible things that are yet to be. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you would like to hear more, make sure to like, comment, and if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to turn on those post notifications as well, so you'll get a notification possibly if YouTube works. But make sure to check out the links in the description as well, Twitter, Instagram, yada yada, including my Gmail if you want to submit a story. I've got a lot more stories, trust me. I've been stockpiling them. But with that being said, stay safe, stay scary, and I'll see you in the next one.